Good afternoon.
Hold on. It says it's setting it up on my screen.
It says it's now streaming live on my.
Oh, good. Okay.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Wonders of technology. I call to order the nominating committee meeting for the Accountability and Implementation Board at this time. It is 1:06 p.m. I do not believe I need a motion for that. I will look at committee member Post to confirm that I do not need a motion to call the meeting to order. Excellent. Thank you. Our next order of business is to approve the executive session minutes from our previous meeting. As you all are aware, the public, we met during closed sessions. We appropriately announced our closed session meeting in order to deal with confidential matters to review applications for the Accountability and Implementation Board. Is there a motion from the committee to accept the minutes?
Move we accept the minutes.
Thank you. Dr. Root has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Pinsky. Thank you, Senator Pinsky. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The motion passes. The next item on our agenda is opening remarks. I do have several and would invite if my vice chair would like to also add opening remarks. He is obviously welcome to do so. Just as a reminder to everyone, this nominating committee, we six, literally met a little over 2 months ago, and we had an ambitious and significant task to assemble, organize, develop, and open an application process, review and vet candidates, and ultimately decide a slate. And we did this over a several weeks period. I need to thank every single one of my colleagues on this committee for their dedication, their resolve, their leadership, their time, their passion, their savvy, and their collegiality. I mean every word of it. It was an abject lesson in service, and I want to thank everyone. It was an honor and a pleasure. We could not have done this work without the professionalism, patience, and support of who we affectionately call staff. Rachel, Stacy, Mindy, and Katie Lee, who are the women behind the curtain. And of course, we would not be here today without our collective commitment to students, families, staff, and schools, and without the broader public of residents, families, advocates, public officials, and friends of Maryland Public Schools who wrote letters, wrote emails, made calls to ensure that our deliberations were informed and effective. Due to the short period of time, we did not get to acknowledge each and every one of you, so I hope that you will consider this blanket acknowledgement now. We saw it all, so thank you again. That concludes my brief remarks. Senator Pinsky is my vice chair, if you wouldn't mind just giving a few.
I'll defer until after the names are announced, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And now for the time that we've been waiting for. I told you this is an earnest group. The first, just to keep you in suspense for a bit longer, I'd like to cue Rachel Heiss to just give an overview of the process in the pool.
Sure, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, as everyone knows, the nominating committee released the application on July 12th, and there was about 3.5 weeks for members of the public to apply, to be considered. The announcement was shared with over 40 different media outlets around the state, and of course posted on the website. The deadline of August 4th, we received 43 ballot applications. For most of those, applicants live in either Montgomery County or Baltimore City, with some applicants from 5 other counties: Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Prince George's, Charles, and Frederick. About half of the applicants were white and about half of the applicants were male, and about a little less than 40% were from African-American applicants and also a few from Asian and Hispanic applicants. And I mention all of this because the nominating committee is required to consider the gender, racial, and geographic diversity of the state in making its selections. And so with that, I'm just turn it back to you.
You're muted, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. We are pleased, and I have the humbling task to represent my fellow committee members to make the announcement of the 9 nominees. I think it is important for everyone to know, quite to our surprise, certainly to mine, that each of these 9 were unanimously selected by all of us on the nominating committee. And I assure you that those conversations were thorough, they were robust, and they're productive. And we are pleased that we were able to drive consensus among these 9. With no further ado, I am going to read the 9 names. Dr. Mara Doss is a resident of Anne Arundel County and has worked in Prince George's Community College for 29 years. She is currently the Associate Vice President for Teaching, Learning, and Student Success there, where she focuses on training public school secondary teachers and oversees the college's career and technology education programs. Fagin Harris is of Baltimore City and is a product of Maryland Public Schools and is a former Rhodes Scholar. He has dedicated his career to advancing the educational and employment opportunities of young adults in Baltimore City. He leads and co-founded Baltimore Core in 2013 to attract talent to advance race equity and social innovation, and currently serves as a member of the board of AmeriCorps. Dr. William E. Britz Kerwin served as Chancellor of the University System of Maryland, culminating a 50-year career in higher education and public service. He was appointed by Governor Hogan and the presiding officers of the General Assembly to serve as chair of the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, which over its 3-year tenure developed the policy and funding recommendations that form the basis of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Isaiah Ike Leggett served in elected office in Montgomery County for 32 years, where he resides, including 12 years as county executive and 16 years as a member of the county council. During his tenure leading Montgomery County, where he was also the first African-American county executive, he made hard choices to ensure the county was on strong financial footing and successfully leveraged the growing diversity in Montgomery County. Dr. Jennifer Lynch worked in the Baltimore County Public Schools for 15 years, beginning as a school psychologist, then an assistant principal, and finally principal of an elementary school for 5 years. She was a Principal of the Year nominee in 2018 and 19, and her school was named one of the 2019 top performing schools on the PARCC standardized tests in the Baltimore region by the Baltimore Sun. Joseph Manko was an elementary school principal in the Baltimore City Public Schools for 10 years before assuming his current position at the Able Foundation as a program officer. Prior to that, he taught in the Baltimore City Public Schools, where he earned national board certification from the National Board for Professional and Teaching Standards. Harry F. Preston V is a 16-year veteran teacher in the Baltimore City Public Schools, whose certifications include secondary math, business, computer science, and Project Lead the Way, an engineering program. He is currently director of the Elijah Cummings Innovation Center at Green Street Academy, a charter school in Baltimore City. Dr. Laura Stapleton is currently interim dean of the University of Maryland College of Education, where she is also a professor in human development and quantitative methodology. She also served as an associate director of research for the Maryland Longitudinal Data System Center from 2013 to 2018. And finally, Dr. Josh Starr was superintendent of schools in Stamford, Connecticut, and Montgomery County, Maryland, both of which were majority minority school districts. Presently, he is the CEO of Phi Delta Kappa International, a nonprofit membership organization for K through 12 educators. Thank you. These are the 9 nominees that emerged among a slate of 43 of tremendously impressive people and Marylanders who wanted to serve. So I will stop for a moment and ask Senator Pinsky if he will now give some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the fine work you did. By state law, we have to submit at least 9 names to the governor for the 7 positions. Unfortunately, they're not 9 positions because they're all very worthy of this important task ahead. The governor will then have 30 days in which to decide which of the 7, which 7 of the 9 will be assigned to the AIB Oversight Board. We had many great candidates, a lot of great candidates. And the 9 who you see before you have multiple experiences and skill sets. But I want to highlight one that they all have, or one of the many each of them brings. There's one current classroom teacher. There are 2 people who had principal experience in the schools at implementing education policy, as well as now having a broader policy experience as well. We have 1 former local school superintendent. So again, I just want to reiterate, classroom teacher, 2 people with principal experience, and 1 former local superintendent of a very large school operation. We have 1 individual serving who's working at a community college, a 2-year institution, where in fact she works with a lot of high school students. She oversees the middle college program there, which basically melds K-12 and the associate degree program. We also have 2 from a 4-year experience, 1 who's the acting dean of education at College Park, and then of course Britt Kerwin, who led not only the Kerwin Commission, but was formerly president of College Park and chancellor for the whole state of Maryland. Then we have 2 who might not have explicitly direct experience in education, and I would, I guess, call them generalists. 1, the former county executive of Montgomery County, who served as county executive for 12 years, and in fact had oversight over the school budget for Montgomery County. And we also have the leader of a nonprofit, Fagin Harris, a Rhodes Scholar, participated in the public schools and now leads a nonprofit. And both of them have a very clear understanding of systems change. So I point this out to show that we want to have multiple voices around the table with multiple experiences. We think that having a group of ultimately 7 from the 9 who have both policy experience and implementation experience will give a lot of life to this group. They obviously have to oversee the policy and follow with fidelity the law, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. They are going to be the ones who call for the accountability and to ensure that the implementation is done in the 24 jurisdictions. So they have a great task, but we think they have a multiple of experiences that actually, as a collective body, will be very refreshing and I think rewarding to the state of Maryland. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Pinsky. I would love if they are willing, if any other committee members would give observations and remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've done a great job of chairing our group. And as you said, we had robust discussions. Senator Pinsky pointed out the great expertise that all of these folks bring to the AIB. It's an exciting time for public education as we do delve further into the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, and the AIB will be important to make sure that the resources actually got to our schools and our districts as is outlined in the law and in the legislation. So many people, community groups, educators, business owners have worked so hard to get the Blueprint passed that we're now looking to this team, of which will be 7, all are qualified for the AIB, to lead us through and make sure that we're using the dollars exactly how they were specified to be used. We know, as you stated, or as Rachel Heiss stated, that they come from predominantly Montgomery County and Baltimore City, but I am very confident that all 7 that are eventually chosen will represent the entire state. This is a state program, a state project of public education, and the success of any one district is important to the success of all districts. And so I encourage everyone to, once that's seated, to reach out to the AIB and make sure that everyone from across the state is giving them input, sharing with them, and that they will be open to that input as they fulfill their responsibility. It is exciting time, and we're pleased to put this slate forward.
Thank you, Ms. Post. Any other committee members?
I would like to say a couple words, Madam Chair. You've heard the 9 names that came through the process and will be submitted to the governor. We think that's a very diverse and competent group who will do a good job for the state of Maryland. I would like to point out that it was a difficult process to get to this point. It was done with the assistance of great staff work who had everything we needed when we needed it on time and done well. It was also done with a very capable chairperson. Did a good job of herding cats. The candidates who did not get included in the final 9 also contain many competent and able individuals. It was a very difficult task to get to a final 9 and resulted in a lot of discussion and a lot of decisions. But I think the state of Maryland will be well served by the 9 people that we ended up with and which the committee unanimously adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Root. Any other comments, remarks? Seeing none. Thank you all again. So those are our 9, and would like to have Rachel, have we made clear about next steps? Did we make that clear? Or did Senator Pinsky put a fine point on it?
I think Senator Pinsky did, but just to explain, so these names will be submitted to the governor's office today now, and the governor has 30 days to select 7 of the 9 to be appointed to the AIB. So that would be by October 1st. And I would also just note that there will be a press announcement, public announcement posted on the committee's website shortly with all of the information and a little bit more that you've shared today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Our next order of business is the amendment to our bylaws. And I'd like for Stacy Goodman, our counsel, to give an overview of the proposed changes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a copy of the proposed bylaws in the meeting materials that was posted online and given to each of the committee members. Essentially what this would add new language to the bylaws in Article 6 under nominations. Subsection C, where it says accountability and implementation board vacancies, a new provision would be added to allow the committee to retain and to reactivate applications that have been previously submitted to the committee as an efficiency of resources measure. It would require that the committee first obtain the consent of an applicant before deciding to reactivate that application, and to establish a method for updating information on that application.
Thank you.
I'll move.
Thank you. Ms. Bost moves to accept the amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Root. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, and because this is a bylaw change, I will ask for each person's vote by hand. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right, 6 in favor, none opposed. The amendment passes. And then we have another piece of housekeeping, and I think, Stacy, you're also up.
Yes. So at the very first meeting, the public meeting of the committee, 2 committee members volunteered to be the members on the committee to take the Open Meetings Act training. Just as a refresher, the law requires that at least one member of the committee within 90 days of activating be trained on the Open Meetings Act training. So Ms. Boast and Dr. Lee have both completed the training last week, so the committee is in compliance with the law. The second matter of business is also at that meeting. The committee voted to put in a request for a waiver from having to file a financial disclosure statement with the State Ethics Commission after having previously been advised by the commission that as a purely advisory body, there was this option, given that you make no recommendations on public policy or whatnot. So we have followed up with the Ethics Commission. Their next meeting is on September 22nd. At that point, they will make a decision about whether to accept our waiver. So we will let you know. If they in fact do not accept the waiver, we will send the appropriate paperwork and everyone will be required to file, I think it's a truncated financial disclosure statement in line with boards and commissions. And that's all I have.
Thank you for your diligence and making sure that our administrative matters are in line. Rose, is your hand up?
Yes, I had a quick question. I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but the selections that's going to the governor, the memo did not mention the staggered terms. I didn't know if it might be helpful to remind the governor's office that these are the staggered terms and they need to either pick it or send it back and have us do it. But I just thought maybe that needs to be added somewhere.
I have spoken with the governor's office. They are aware of the staggered terms, and that will be part of when the governor makes his selections. He will appoint members to specific slots that have specific terms. So 3 have a 3-year term, 2 have a 4-year term, and 2 have a 5-year term. And a full term is 6 years, just for everyone's benefit.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Are there any other questions? Right. Seeing none, we have exhausted our business for the afternoon. Are there any closing remarks beyond well done? Thank you. And now it's time to get some work done.
Let me just add one final thought, Madam Chair. The Blueprint for Maryland's Future was a major reform effort in the state, the largest ever, I believe. And obviously it's been interrupted by the pandemic. But all through the Kerwin Commission that recommended much of what's in the blueprint, a firm, clear position was that there had to be accountability. And there had to be fidelity, because many of these proposals are somewhat groundbreaking and we want to ensure that they are implemented in such a way. And I think having an oversight board that can ensure that accountability is the final step to complete stage 1. So I think we all have looked forward to having a body that can work with the 24 jurisdictions and work cooperatively and hear feedback, see how they plan on implementing the Kerwin or the blueprint. And at some point, they may even come back to the legislature with suggested changes. But you know, it's hard to implement if you don't have an oversight board. And that was front and center in all of our efforts, from the Kerwin Commission to the legislature passing the law. Everyone said there had to be accountability. So moving this list to the governor underwrites and undercuts and underlines that effort, that the legislature believed in accountability. We wanted to ensure that accountability, and now we can actually put that into place.
Thank you, sir. Any other closing remarks? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Boast. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Root. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.